This is the Karfo food waste composter, and to open it up, just press the little button right at the top, and it opens up pretty easy. There are a couple pieces with this composter. First is the bin, and then right here you have the base. Notice you have a mechanism that turns the paddles at the bottom, and then you have the plug for the heating element. It's actually very simple. Right here in the lid you have an activated charcoal insert, and this blocks any kind of foul odors that might be associated with what you're composting. Now, there are several pegs on the side and a little arrow that allows you to put it in pretty easy. So we're just going to line that up right quick so you can see what it looks like. Give it a turn to the right, and there you go. Pretty simple. So you just line up the pegs and the arrow, and let's take a look at the bin. The bin is super heavy duty. You've got a paddle that turns, moving the food around, and then when it comes into contact with that metal bracket, in essence, it just chops it up into tiny little pieces. This is the heating element on the bottom, and through the cycle, it turns on and off, in essence, dehydrating your food, removing the moisture from the food as it's getting broken down into very, very small particles. And so that's basically the bin. Very simple unit right here. Let's set that to the side and look at our first batch. We're going to run a couple different batches here in this composter so that you can see how it operates. And what we have here is some fairly dry products. I've got eggs and some coffee. We've got burnt on food and onions and celery and things like that. Just regular kitchen scraps that we used while we were making other dishes. In this cup over here is also kitchen scraps, but this is stuff that we're pulling out of our dish drain. Notice that it is a lot wetter. We've got rice, we've got cooked vegetables, not a lot of it, some protein in this particular one, but there is a higher moisture content in what's in this cup. And so we're going to save that for batch number 2. Basically, the 2 modes is a quick and a standard mode. And in the quick mode, you put in dry food or drier food. And in the standard mode, you can put in food waste that's a little more wet. Now, Karfo does recommend that you remove the basin when you fill it up with either your food waste or with water in the event that you're doing the cleaning mode. And that's just so you don't get your base, dirty when you're adding food waste to the bin. All right, let's load it up. We've got eggshells and coffee grounds. We've also got, vegetable scraps like carrots and celery. We do have burnt on food that came off of the bottom of a pot, and that's what this is right here. This is basically just burnt on, like, milk from a bechamel sauce that I think we made. And so we're going to fill this up. For the quick mode, you're going to fill it up about 50%. The food waste is relatively dry, as you can see in this video. And what we'd like to do is we normally like to have a bin for the drier stuff and then another bin for stuff that we pull out of the sink or is a little bit wetter. Look at that. We've got a little apple core in there. Not a problem. And that looks about perfect. So that is 50% full. As you can see, we are going to run the quick mode, and it's really easy to do. So let's put the compost bin into the base. And the pegs right here, see those 4 screws? They kind of line up with this one little area, so it comes in super easy. And then you just want to make sure that you push it all the way down. There's also an arrow that lets you know you're in the right direction as well. Okay, so let's close it down. And you're going to see the control panel here at the top. Very easy to operate. You've got a bin that looks like it's full about 50%. That's the quick mode. This option takes about 2.5 hours. And when you short press the power button, it switches over to the standard mode. Notice the bin right there looks like it's full about 75%. When you short press the power button again, you will get a water drop, and that's the cleaning mode. Cleaning mode takes about 30 minutes. All right, so let's go back to the quick mode, and that's what we're going to activate. So now we're going to long press the power button, and it's active. There we go. Just that easy. It'll start to blink, and you can hear the paddle start to move, and at which point you can just sit back and wait. 2.5 hours later, it is done. And notice all 3 of the icons are lit up. That just lets you know that the cycle is finished. And as you can see, our food waste looks radically different. We put in about 4 cups of relatively dry food waste, and you do want to be careful with that handle because it can be a little hot sometimes. But let's pour this out into a bowl so that you can get a closer look at what our food waste turned into. The inside of the basin, yep, looks pretty clean, no problem there. And we had 4 cups of food waste into the composter, and it's now been reduced down to about a cup of coarsely chopped compost. It does have a slight coffee smell because we did have coffee grounds. We had, a coffee filter in there. And so this is going to be great for your garden. It'll help deter pests. You can throw it in the trash if you want. You can throw it in your flower bed. It really doesn't matter. At this point, it is good to go. Let's run mode number 2, which is the standard mode. And in the standard mode, you can actually put a little bit more compost in there. So we're going to put both wet and dry food waste. So we're going to put whatever is remaining in that bowl right there. And this is vegetable scraps, eggshells. I think there's, that burnt on dried material. So that's going to go in first. Very good. So that's probably, 3 cups, 2.5 cups of food waste. But now we're going to add our wet food waste. This is going to be stuff that your drain caught, any vegetables, if you have chicken or protein, if you have pasta, if you have leftovers that you plan on scrapping, that would go into the standard mode. And notice the bin's now filled up about 75%. So you can add a little bit more during the standard mode, but it does take about twice as long to run its cycle. Let's put that in there. And just like before, we're going to line up the screws with that notch and just make sure that it's pushed all the way down. You'll kind of hear it click. We have the arrows lining up, and this looks great. If you're having trouble closing the lid, it's more than likely because your basin isn't all the way down. Okay, so we need to now go to the second mode. That's the standard mode, and notice the icon right there is a bin filled about 75%. This mode takes about 5 hours. I want to say 5.5 hours, something like that, to run. We long press the power button, and it's now active. So you'll see it flashing when it's on. You'll also hear that paddle moving that food around. All right, 5.5 hours have passed. Let's remove the basin so that you can see the end result of what 6.5 cups of food waste looks like. Remember, this was wet food waste, the kind of food waste that generally attracts bugs and can develop those foul odors. Let's put it in this container so you can see right here. Very good. Looks great. Notice the basin, mostly clean. You can rinse it out, or you can put it in your dishwasher, or you can run another load right quick, which is generally what we do. But this particular batch is a little bit finer than the other one. Let's put them side by side so you can see the difference between both modes. So the one on the left, that is the standard mode. That's the one that took a little bit longer. Notice those 6.5 cups got broken down to about 2 cups of compost. And this is the quick mode, a little more coarse. As you can see, little specks of, eggshells and things in that. But that broke down 4 cups pretty easy. And at this point, you could take this end product and add it to your flower bed. You could use it as fertilizer. You could throw it in the trash. It really just all depends. Now, you might be asking yourself, how much does it actually cost to run a cycle? Well, here we go. The left side is the standard mode. It took 5.5 hours, and that used 0.676 kilowatt hours. The right side is the quick mode. That took 2.5 hours, and that used 0.284 kilowatt hours. So currently, the average cost of electricity in the United States is almost 18 cents per kilowatt hour. It's 0.178. So based off of that average, to run the standard mode, it would cost about 12 cents, and to run the quick mode, it would cost 5 cents. The final mode is the cleaning mode, and I figured since we were going through the modes, you might as well see how this one works. We just emptied out our compost, and I'm now going to fill this up with water at about 40%. And so I typically fill it just underneath that top set of screws right there on the left-hand side, just like that. You don't want to fill it up too much. Back into the base it goes. Very easy unit to use. I gotta admit, make sure it's locked in all the way to the bottom. All right, let's close it down. And all we gotta do here is short press the power button until we get to the water drop. And there it is. All right, that's the cleaning mode. 3 modes, super easy to activate them. You just long press it when you're in that mode. It will start blinking and you can hear it operating. After 30 minutes, this is what it looks like. In essence, the paddle is moving around any debris. It's heating up that water, so you're getting a lot of that steam action. Let's put it on the table. And you do want to be careful during the modes because that handle can be a little warm, like I said earlier. But I'm going to dump this into the sink so that you can see what it looks like afterwards. And this is it. All I did was rinse it with some cool water, and this is the end result. Right here on this metal piece, depending on how often you clean your unit, you can get some debris that kind of gets cooked onto that one side, but it's not hard to get off. And if you clean every 2 or 3 cycles, then you won't ever have to worry about that. Whatever material this is made out of, it cleans incredibly easy.